Hello, travelers and monster catchers abound. I'm Stella Farish, and you have crash-landed on the Monster Catcher Starter podcast. I hope you enjoyed this riveting tale that I'm about to tell you today. The first time I saw the creature, I thought my Glyph scanner was broken. The screen flickered wildly as Luna adjusted the antenna on the side of the detector. Stella Farish, she muttered, staring at the readings. Either this thing doesn't exist, or the scanner's trying to explode. We were deep in the Bloomhollow Plains of western Nibiru, far beyond the tulip fields where normal travelers ever dared to go. Above us, Nibiru's twin suns glowed softly in the eternal sky, while the three moons shimmered overhead like giant watchful lanterns. On Nibiru, the suns and moons never disappear. Day and night blend together in endless celestial light. The flowers around us swayed in the warm wind. Thousands upon thousands of glowing pink tulips stretched endlessly across the plains, and beneath them, something moved. Beak let out a low, warning chirp beside me. The grass trembled, then the ground burst open. A massive white creature crawled upward from beneath the soil with the sound of cracking roots and shifting stone. It looked almost like a giant termite larva, but its body was patterned like a dairy cow. Covered in black and white patches, rows of tiny pink mammalian udders lined its underside, gently swaying as it moved. Its eyes glowing red, locked onto us. Zena immediately stepped backwards. "Nope," she said. "Absolutely not. That thing looks like it drinks bones." The creature clicked its mandibles together, then it sniffed the air. My detector gun screamed, "Unknown glyph detected. Class, biofusion. Temperament, maternal territorial. Status, extremely rare." Then the scanner displayed the name, Mootite. The mammal termite glyph. I stared at the screen. A mammal termite? Luna crouched down, carefully watching the creature dig its clawed legs into the soil. "That explains the udders," she whispered. Mootite was enormous, nearly the size of a rover. Its segmented body looked soft but powerful, and its brown, digging limbs were thick like ancient roots. Two yellow tusks, like teeth, poked from its mouth, while its antennae twitched nervously. But the strangest thing was the flowers. Every tulip around it leaned toward the creature as if drawn to it. The air smelled strangely sweet, like warm milk and wet earth. Then the ground behind us exploded. Another mootite emerged. Then another. My stomach dropped. "We're standing on the nest," I whispered. Suddenly the tulip field began moving like water. Hundreds of tiny holes opened across the ground. Baby mootites began crawling upward from beneath the flowers. Tiny ones. Dozens of them. Their little red eyes glowed in the endless twilight. Zena slowly turned toward me. "Stella, yeah. If they all have moms nearby." A monstrous shriek erupted from underground. The earth split open and the queen emerged. The tulip snapped flat beneath her weight. She was colossal, at least 50 feet long. Her body was swollen with glowing pink nutrient sacs, and massive crystal growths jutted from her shell like jagged mountains. Her eyes glowed brighter than the others, and fungal spores puffed from her breathing vents in thick pink clouds. The scanner nearby overloaded. "Empress Mooterra, Alpha Colony Glyph." Danger level symbols filled the screen. Beak spread his wings protectively. The queen slammed her front legs into the earth so hard that dirt blasted into the air around us. The babies immediately rushed behind her. Maternal, territorial. The scanner warning suddenly made sense. "She thinks we're here to hurt the colony," Luna said quietly. The queen opened her jaws, and a horrible sound came out. Not a roar, a crying sound, like dozens of calves mooing at once beneath the earth. The noise shook my chest. Then the babies charged us. Tiny mootites poured from the ground like living floodwater. "Run!" Zena screamed. We bolted through the tulip field as hundreds of baby glyphs chased after us. The little creatures squeaked and clicked while tunneling beneath the flowers, fast enough to keep pace beside us underground. Beak blasted gusts of wind behind us to slow them down, but more kept appearing. Then the queen burst from beneath the soil directly ahead of us. The ground collapsed. I fell hard into a massive underground tunnel. The others slid down after me. We landed inside the colony. The entire cavern glowed pink. Huge roots covered the ceiling, dripping glowing nectar into pools below. Massive fungal towers rose from the dirt, while worker mootites crawled everywhere, carrying chunks of crystal, flowers, and nutrient pods. It was beautiful and horrifying at the same time. The queen crawled down into the cavern after us. Her glowing red eyes narrowed. I slowly raised my hands. "We're not here to hurt your babies," I whispered. She clicked her jaws. Then something strange happened. One of the tiny baby mootites crawled toward me. It was smaller than the others, weak. Its shell was cracked. The little thing stumbled before collapsing beside my boot. The scanner beeped again. Infected parasite fungus detected. I looked closer. Dark purple mold was spreading beneath the baby's shell. Luna gasped. "That's why the queen is aggressive. The infection wasn't natural. Something had poisoned the colony." The queen let out another desperate cry, not anger, fear. I knelt beside the baby slowly. Then I pulled a healing capsule from my satchel. "Easy," I whispered. The little mootite trembled as I sprayed the medicine over the fungal growth. Smoke hissed from its shell. The infection slowly shriveled away. The baby blinked at me. Then it made the tiniest little mooing chirp I had ever heard. The queen froze. The entire colony became silent. Then the baby crawled into my lap. The queen lowered her head toward me, slowly, carefully. Her glowing eyes softened. "She understands," Zena whispered. I gently held the baby mootite while the queen studied me. Then the giant creature nudged something towards my feet. A glyph pyramid, old, ancient, buried beneath the colony for years. It was an offering. The queen wanted me to take the baby. My heart nearly shattered. "You want me to protect him?" The queen lowered her head again. The baby mootite curled against my arms sleepily. Beak chirped softly beside me. I smiled. Then I placed the pyramid and pressed the button. Light exploded through the cavern. Gold and glyph symbols spiraled around the tiny creature as the pyramid activated. The baby floated gently into the air while the queen watched silently. The Glyphid sealed with a warm pulse of pink light. Glyph successfully bonded. The screen displayed with the name I chose, Moolite. The little creature immediately popped back out beside me and climbed onto my shoulder like an oversized insect puppy. It nuzzled my cheek. Warm milk-scented breath puffed against my skin. Zena groaned. "That is the grossest, adorable thing I've ever seen." Luna laughed. The queen let out one final deep cry that echoed through the colony, not sad this time, grateful. As we climbed back to the surface beneath the eternal glow of Nibiru's twin suns and 3 moons, moonlight curled around my shoulders and fell asleep. Behind us, the tulip field slowly swayed once more, and beneath the flowers, the colony finally rested peacefully again. By the time we finally returned to the underground sanctuary, everyone was exhausted. Hidden far beneath the surface of Nibiru, the sanctuary stretched through ancient tunnels and glowing crystal caverns beneath the desert plains. Thick roots twisted through the stone ceilings. Bioluminescent fungi lit the halls in soft blues and greens, and old machinery hummed quietly behind reinforced metal walls. Ever since we'd gone into hiding from the Council of Elders, the underground sanctuary has become our true home. Moonlight had spent most of the rover ride, curled around my shoulders, softly chirping in his sleep, while tiny puffs of warm air escaped from his tiny little mandibles. Every now and then he twitched his antenna and made tiny mooing noises that sounded suspiciously like snoring, kinda like Muta does. Even Zena had admitted he was kinda cute now. Kinda. The hidden blast doors groaned open as we entered the main chamber. Immediately chaos erupted. Beak spotted Moonlight first. The golden scarab Glyph froze on top of one of the storage crates with a half-eaten verdant stalk muffin clutched between his little claws. His polished gold shell reflected the glowing cavern lights, while his duck-like beak slowly lowered in suspicion. His wings covers lifted slightly. Moonlight's glowing red eyes slowly opened. The 2 glyphs stared at each other in complete silence. The Moonlight hissed. Beak let out an angry metallic screek, crack. noise and buzzed his wings furiously. "Oh no," Luna whispered. "Too late." Orabeak launched from the crate in a blur of gold, his scarab wings vibrating loudly enough to stir dust from the cavern ceiling. A powerful gust blasted through the common area, scattering maps, tools, and empty snack wrappers everywhere. Mootite immediately puffed himself up like an angry insect cow and dropped from my shoulders onto the stone floor. The little termite mammal let out an offended moo-click. Orabeak buzzed louder. "He thinks Mootite's trying to steal his sleeping spot," Zena laughed. Orabeak landed protectively beside his favorite nest near one of the geothermal heating vents, a giant pile of blankets, old jackets, pillows, and soft fabrics Luna had stitched together months ago deep inside the sanctuary tunnels. Mootite stared at the nest, then his antenna twitched slowly. He crawled towards it. Orabeak's black eyes widened in horror. "Do not," Zena warned, while already laughing. Mootite ignored her completely. The tiny Glyph climbed directly into Orabeak's bed, spun around 3 times, and immediately buried himself into the blankets with a happy little chirp. Orabeak lost his mind. The golden scarab Glyph flew in furious circles around the room, buzzing so loudly the fungus lamps trembled on the wall. He landed beside the nest and aggressively poked Mootite with his duck-like beak. Mootite answered by digging all 6 clawed legs deep into the blanket and refusing to move. Then things somehow got worse. Ignazura wandered into the room. The massive sapphire's Tiger Glyph blinked slowly at the commotion before spotting the warm nest near the vent. Without hesitation, Ignazura casually climbed into the pile too. The blankets groaned under his weight. Orabeak looked moments away from emotional collapse. "You cannot all fit in there," Luna shouted. Suddenly Myrno came skittering around the corner from the lower tunnels, carrying an entire loaf of sweet root bread in his mouth. Mootite immediately smelled the food. His eyes glowed bright red. The tiny termite Glyph exploded from the blanket pile like a furry missile. Myrno squealed. Orabeak dove after them. Within seconds, the underground sanctuary became a war zone. The loaf of sweet root bread flew through the air beneath the glowing crystal lights. Orabeak caught it briefly in his little claws before Mootite latched onto the other side with all 6 legs. The 2 Glyphs tugged back and forth violently while growling, buzzing, and screeching at each other. "Mine!" Zena shouted dramatically while pretending to translate for them. Orabeak's wings buzzed furiously. Mootite dug tiny claw trenches into the stone floor while pulling with surprising strength. Then Ignazura calmly leaned forward and swallowed the entire loaf whole. Everyone froze. Silence filled the chamber. Even the ventilation fans seemed quieter. Ignazura blinked once, then casually walked away toward the lower tunnels, like nothing had happened. Orabeak stared after him in absolute betrayal. Mootite made the saddest little moo-click noise I had ever heard. Then both Glyphs slowly turned towards me at the exact same time. I sighed. "You want more snacks?" Both creatures nodded immediately. Luna burst out laughing. A few minutes later, we all sat together in the sanctuary commons while I handed out fresh verdant stock muffins from Astra's underground kitchen. Orabeak perched beside me protectively, polishing his golden shell while holding a muffin in his claws. Mootite sat curled in my lap, happily chewing on pieces of sweet root pastry. For a few peaceful minutes, everything was quiet. Then Mootite noticed Orabeak's muffin. Orabeak noticed Mootite noticing his muffin. The scarab slowly narrowed his eyes. Mootite slowly reached one tiny claw toward the pastry. Orabeak buzzed angrily and smacked the claw away with his duck-like beak. Mootite moo-clicked back. And somewhere deeper in the underground hall, Zena yelled, "Stella Fierce, your children are fighting again!" Mootite glared at Orabeak from my lap, while tiny crumbs of muffin clung to his mandibles. Orabeak clutched his pastry tighter. The golden scarab wings buzzed smugly. "Oh no," Luna whispered. "He's taunting him." Sure enough, Orabeak slowly took the smallest bite possible while staring directly at Mootite. Mootite's antenna twitched violently. Then the tiny termite Glyph launched himself forward. Beak screeched and darted into the air just as Moonlight missed him by inches. The muffin flew upward, bouncing off a crystal hanging from the ceiling and landing directly on Ignazura's head as he walked back through the chamber again. The sapphire tiger stopped. Everyone froze once again. Ignazura slowly looked upward at the muffin sitting between his ears. Then, without a single thought behind his eyes, he opened his mouth and ate it. Beak let out the most offended metallic screech I had ever heard. Moonlight moo-clicked victoriously from my shoulders, and Zena collapsed onto the floor laughing so hard she could barely breathe. Beak immediately flew over to Ignazura in a blur of shining gold. The little scarab Glyph landed dramatically on top of the sapphire tiger's head and began unleashing a stream of furious screeches directly into his ear. Screak crack, screak crack, screak squeak, screak crack! Ignazura blinked once. Beak pointed one tiny claw accusingly at his mouth and continued yelling, "Squeak crack, squeak crack, teek 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 teek!" He's filing a formal complaint, Luna said with complete seriousness. Moonlight moo-clicked from my shoulders like he was adding commentary. Beak turned towards him and screeched again, even louder. Now both Glyphs were yelling at Ignazura. Ignazura slowly looked between them with the blankest expression imaginable. Then the sapphire tiger opened his mouth slightly, and a single muffin crumb fell out. Beak gasped in absolute horror. Moonlight immediately tried climbing up Ignazura's leg to retrieve the crumb. Ignazura sighed deeply, laid down beside the geothermal vent, and completely ignored both of them while they continued screaming at him in their tiny, angry Glyph languages. "I can already tell this is going to be fun," I said, unamused, as Beak continued screeching at Ignazura from the top of his head. "Squeak, crack, deek, deek!" Moonlight added an angry little moo-click hiss from halfway up Ignazura's leg. The sapphire tiger looked like he regretted every decision that had led him to this moment. Astra leaned against the stone doorway leading to the underground kitchen, trying not to laugh as she crossed her arms. "They're your children now," she said with a grin. "Yeah," Luna added while watching Beak aggressively peck one of Ignazura's crystal horns. "You wanted them." "And now they fight like children," Zena said, still laughing so hard she had tears in her eyes. "I didn't ask for this," I groaned. Right on cue, Moonlight finally reached the muffin crumb stuck in Ignazura's fur. Beak dove for it, and at the exact same time that Moonlight did, the two tiny Glyphs smashed together midair. A puff of feathers, golden shell dust, and pink fur exploded outward before both creatures hit the floor rolling. Beak screeched, Moonlight hissed. Then both of them stopped fighting long enough to realize the crumb had landed beside Myrno. Myrno looked down at it, slowly picked it up, and swallowed it whole. Silence. Beak and Moonlight stared at him in complete betrayal. The both of them charged Myrno together. Myrno squealed the second he realized both Glyphs were charging him. The little meerkat rhino hybrid bolted across the commons floor so fast his tiny claws scraped sparks off the stone. Beak buzzed furiously behind him while Moonlight galloped after them with his antenna flailing wildly. "Moo-click! Squeak-crack!" Myrno panicked and immediately dove behind Luna's legs. Luna looked down just as the terrified Glyph wrapped himself around her ankles. "Luna, save me!" Zena shouted dramatically in Myrno's voice. Beak landed in front of Luna with an angry buzz duck-like beak pointed accusingly at Myrno. Moonlight skidded to a stop beside him and hissed. The two tiny troublemakers stared up at Luna like they expected her to deliver justice. Luna crossed her arms. "You stole their crumb," she told Myrno. Myrno slowly peeked around her leg. Then he made the tiniest guilty squeak imaginable. "That's what I thought," Luna said. Beak puffed up proudly. Moonlight moo-clicked in agreement. Then Astra walked out of the underground kitchen carrying an entire tray of fresh starbound muffins. Every Glyph in the room froze. Beak's wings buzzed excitedly. Moonlight's eyes became enormous. Myrno abandoned Luna instantly, and Ignazura, who had appeared to be asleep, this entire time, suddenly lifted his head from across the chamber like an ancient predator sensing prey. "Oh no," I whispered. The sanctuary erupted into chaos once again. The minute Astra lowered the tray, every glyph charged at once. Beak flew straight at the muffin, screeching like a tiny golden siren. Moonlight galloped beneath him, Moo clicking wildly. And Mirno practically tripped over himself trying to reach the food first. Even Ignazura suddenly sprinted from across the chamber with terrifying speed. "Astra, run!" I shouted. Astra stared in horror as the stampede of hungry glyphs barreled toward her through the underground sanctuary tunnels. Then the tray disappeared beneath a cloud of wings, claws, fur, and angry screeching. Astra barely had time to gasp before the entire stampede slammed her legs so hard she hit the stone floor with a yelp as muffins exploded everywhere across the underground commons. A few seconds later, the glyphs scattered in every direction with stolen pastries clutched in their mouths. Silence filled the chamber, then Astra slowly sat up. The empty muffin tray had somehow landed perfectly on top of her head like a metal hat. "I hate all of you children," she said flatly. Meanwhile, Beak proudly sat on a ventilation pipe with 3 muffins in his claws, while Mootites tried unsuccessfully to fit the entire pastry into his mouth at once.